Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned. Albino lists his favorite Yu-Gi-Oh cards of each type. Now that might sound like I mean monster types like Beast, Spellcaster, etc. And well, I do also want to do that in a later video because I've been on a massive Yu-Gi-Oh kick recently. For this one, I'm talking about card types. All the different frames of a card, like Spell, Trap, Fusion Monster, Synchro Monster, etc. And for the spells and traps, I'm just going to do one spell and one trap of whatever kind. For pendulums, I'm only going to be doing one kind of pendulum card, even though there's pendulum fusions and pendulum synchros, because I think that's redundant and I don't even like pendulum summoning to begin with. I am by no means a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player. I don't like the meta where all your decks gotta have the same 26 most used cards in it to function against other meta decks and everyone takes 15 minutes to set up their one-turn kills, but I absolutely love Yu-Gi-Oh casually, whether it's in the confines of the story or just messing around dueling with your friends, and my main mode of playing it comes in the form of Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution. I did like Master Duel for a while, but it's a gacha that I didn't want to keep up with, whereas Legacy of the Duelist has the best single-player offerings I've seen in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game to date, letting you do story duels and reverse duels from every season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Up through Vrains and having over 8,000 cards in it. On different systems and different iterations, I probably have a total of 2,000 hours in this game, and so this is what my current Yu-Gi-Oh! Knowledge is based on, and where I've cultivated most of my favorite cards and strategies. So let's just get into it, man. We're gonna start off with the card frame that started it all, the absolute classic, the Normal Monster. The Normal Monster is OG Yu-Gi-Oh! This is a monster card with a yellow frame that has no effects to speak of. You just summon it or attribute for it based on its level, and once it's out there, what you see is what you get. But even though they are primitive, they've since taken on a class of their own, as many future cards and effects would come out that can only work on normal monsters, making them deadlier, easier to summon, and good fodder for more powerful card types like Synchros and XYZs. Pop Amulet of Ambition on a 3-star Jerry Beans man, and that dude can kill almost any monster with a level. Take any two normal monsters and fusion summon First of the Dragons with them, and be invincible against effect monsters. Despite being old, these cards still have modern utility, so which one's my favorite? It's tough because you've got a lot of classics in here. I grew up with these cards playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories on the PS1. Of course, in that game, every card was a normal monster, and you could just put Meteor Black Dragon on the field and face down attack position for free and wait for your opponent to kill themselves. I have some soft favorites for purely aesthetic reasons. Like, I'm a big fan of Sleeping Lion, and I'm not even really sure why. 1700 defense isn't that good. I just like the look of it. Another one like that that's even worse is Yamadron. This dude has 1600 attack and 1800 defense, and it's level 5. You have to tribute for this bullshit. But I just love the card art. I don't know what else to say about it. If I really have to pick a favorite, though, I'm gonna go with an underlooked classic, in my opinion. I actually think this card has its own archetype around it now, but none of those cards are in this game. But while everyone was fawning over Dark Magician, I was standing Cosmo Queen. Cosmo Queen is like a level 8 Dark Magician, if you think about it. It's one level higher, it's a bit stronger, it's also a spellcaster, and it's cool as hell. They say heavy is the head that wears the crown, and she's lugging about 30 pounds by the look of it. Next up, it's good old effect monsters, aka every monster now. You can't just put a monster on the field these days and let it speak for itself. Every duel is a dissertation like, alright, I summon this guy and I activate its effect, which lets me summon this other guy, then his effect activates, which allows me to select 3 cards from my deck, and then you randomly pick one of them to add to my hand, and then I shuffle my deck, and then I XYZ summon this card with those 2 cards, and then this thing's effect activates, which lets me detach one material to target one monster I just used for this XYZ summon and summon it back from the graveyard, and then his effect activates again once he's resummoned, so now I can special summon a different dude to the field, and now his effect activates. Like, everybody's got effects, man. It's why duels take 45 minutes over the course of 2 turns now. That said, I still got a favorite, and it's a humble one. No special summoning your whole deck to the field, just a simple you destroy me, I destroy you. Meet Fencing Fire Ferret. If this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy that target, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. I just think it's a great overall card. There's ways around it, like with everything, but if I'm making a structure deck with no overall theme of just cards I like, this dude's going in there 3 times. I don't dislike archetypes, like the Elemental Heroes or Madolche or Naturia and whatnot, but there is a kind of simplicity I miss from the classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Where every card in your deck didn't synergize with every other card, you know? Yugi would have his essentially random assortment of monsters with a couple of mini-themes in there like Magnet Warriors or the Poker Knights, and then they were held together by just unbelievably cheap magic and trap cards, right? I want to make a signature deck like that, and then go online and never make it out of bronze, and Fencing Fire Ferret's gonna be there with me every step of the way. I love its art, and I'm a big fan of beast monsters and fire monsters in general, so to combine them is a great time. Up next, we're doing Fusion Monsters, the first iconic method of special summoning monsters by fusing mixing multiple dudes together to create something better, or in a lot of lower level fusion monsters cases, creating something entirely pointless. Yeah bro, I can't wait to fuse Monster Egg with Hinotama Soul to create the almighty 1100 attack powered Cheruban the Fire Knight. You may think you have me backed into a corner, but wait until I activate Polymerization to fusion summon Zombie Warrior! As for my favorite, I think I have to harken back to my Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories days. Fusing was the main way to put strong cards on the field, and they sort of just did it by vibes. Like if you wanted Cyber Soldier, you just use any warrior and any machine with less attack than Cyber Soldier. You want Black Dragon Jungle King, use a plant monster and a dragon. Mystical Sand, pick a rocket abroad. And even though Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon was the main thing to shoot for as you cheesed your way through an insanely difficult and grindy and bullshit game, my favorite fusion monster to stack my deck with materials for was always Crimson Sunburned. Back then you just needed a bird and a fire monster that were stronger than Mavelus, because otherwise you just get Mavelus and nobody wants Mavelus. But yeah, if I existed in the OG Yu-Gi-Oh! World, this would be my signature fusion card, the way Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is for Kaiba, though I suspect I would lose that 1v1. Let's shake things up and pivot to spell cards, which are like magic cards, except now they're spell cards. There's so many that do all sorts of good and nasty things that it's hard to pick just one, but I think I'm gonna be greedy and go with a card that is now banned, or at least it is in Legacy of the Duelist. Harpy's Feather Duster. Harpy's broken-ass Feather Duster destroys all spell and trap cards your opponent controls, and that just brings me a lot of joy as someone who's been mirror-forced and compulsively evacuated too many times. Honestly, I don't know why this card's banned. People activate half their effects from their hands now, cards barely even touch the spell and trap zone, but when I do see a row of set cards in a CPU match and I play this bad boy and watch them all shatter and crumble into the graveyard, it arouses me. A sensible pivot from spells to traps now. Love 'em or hate 'em, mostly hate 'em. Traps are an integral part of pissing your opponent off and making him want to quit Yu-Gi-Oh! Forever. If I had to pick a favorite trap, I wouldn't, but just to name one that I use sometimes that's kinda sorta unique, I'm gonna go with Punch in the Box. The way Punch in the Box works is that if your opponent has 2 or more monsters and attacks you with one of them, you can negate that attack, send another monster they control to the graveyard, and then the monster that attacked loses attack equal to the attack or defense of the monster you sent to the graveyard, whichever's higher. I like to use quirkier situational cards like this because it makes me feel better and I think it's more interesting. Like if your opponent only ever attacks with one monster on the field, this card will never work, and that's a downside that I accept for novelty's sake. Let's go back to monsters, with my favorite type of monster, Synchro monsters. I haven't seen the 5Ds anime, though I'm currently on a Yu-Gi-Oh! Binge where I'm gonna watch everything there's ever been, and I'm on Yu-Gi-Oh! GX right now. But as soon as this game introduced me to Synchro monsters, I was hooked. I love the idea of tuners and non-tuners and adding levels together to make stuff. I thought that was a super neat evolution of the series as far as summoning methods go, a peak they have not reached since. For me, it's a tie between 2 cards that I often have in the same decks whenever I have dark tuners in them. The first is Underground Arachnid. I have arachnophobia. I absolutely hate spiders, but this one's got a dude sticking out of it, which is just worth mentioning, I guess. This thing's effects are killer, though. If it attacks, your opponent can't activate spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step, which as a hater of trap cards, I appreciate immensely. It doesn't trigger Mirror Force, Scrap Iron Scarecrow, Magic Cylinder, or any of those classic annoying cards. But that's not all, because once per turn, you can select a face-up monster your opponent controls and just snatch that shit up, turning it into an equip card that protects it from being destroyed by battle. This thing can still easily die to card effects, so it's not all powerful, but I love it as a means of easily getting rid of your opponent's best monsters. It requires a dark tuner and 1 or more non-tuner insect monsters. An easy way to get it on the field is to special summon Primitive Butterfly if you have no monsters, and then normal summon whichever level 1 dark tuner you're into. Coinciding with that, my other favorite synchro is Beelzy of the Diabolic Dragons, which is a level 8 synchro that also needs a dark tuner and then 1 or more whatever kind of non-tuners. An easy way to get this guy on the field is to special summon Primitive Butterfly if you have no monsters, and then normal summon a level 2 or 3 dark tuner using Primitive Butterfly's effect to make the math work either way. This man is hard to kill. It can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and any damage you take from battles with it or card effects gets added to his attack power. So if he runs into a monster with higher attack, it won't be for long, and he's shrugging off dark holes and rejeckies like an absolute boss. Now we have XYZ monsters. This is the part where I start to like Yu-Gi-Oh! A little less, but it's not too bad. If you want to XYZ summon, you generally just need 2 or more monsters of the same level, much broader requirements than synchro summoning, and a lot easier to do since so many cards are like, when you normal summon this card, special summon another same level dude from your hand or graveyard and make Dark Rebellion XYZ Dragon for free. Then those monsters become materials that attach to the XYZ monster and often act as limited fuel to activate its effects. Still though, I do have a favorite, and that favorite is the situationally amazing number 103 Ragnazero. A bunch of them have numbers for anime plot reasons, don't ask me about it. Ragnazero, like so many of them, needs 2 level 4 monsters, and once per turn, during either player's turn, as a quick effect, you can detach 1 material from it, then target 1 face-up attack position monster your opponent controls whose current attack is different from its original attack, destroy it, and if you do, draw 1 card. So basically, if their attack is boosted by any effect or lowered by any effect, they are prime targets for getting dusted, and you can either just have it in your back pocket for situational use if your opponent happens to alter their monster's attack power, or you can enable it yourself by using your own effects to raise or lower their attack. Like Wonder Balloons is a staple in a Ragnazero-oriented deck, because by sending 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, you can permanently make every monster your opponent summons lose 300 attack, or more if you want to lose more cards. The unsung hero of Ragnazero, though, is the card draw. I love card draw. Let me draw 1 card every day of the week, dude. Hand replenishment is so valuable and comfortable. I actually skipped over an older summoning method, so let's circle back to it. That's ritual summoning. Ritual monsters have dark blue frames and look hella cool, and the classic way to get them on the field is to use a corresponding ritual spell card unique to that monster, and then tribute monsters from your hand or field whose levels are greater than or equal to the level of the ritual monster you're trying to summon. There were a couple more broad ways of ritual summoning back in the olden times, but nowadays there's whole ritual deck archetypes, and it's become something that is not as special as it used to be, which I guess you can say about anything, but I feel like ritual summoning has been bastardized more than fusion summoning, for example, since fusion monsters populate the extra deck instead of the main one, so there's more room for other stuff to still happen. Ritual summoning leads to some of the coolest, most aura-having monsters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! There's just something different about seeing a blackluster soldier in that brilliant blue frame on the field, even though it's basically just a warrior-type Blue Eyes White Dragon, and I don't think they ever should have become support cards or combo starters or enablers. You get these decks that are like, hey, ritual summon this level 4 monster so it can activate its effect that ritual summons a better one. To me, these cards should only be unique individual bosses that it becomes the focal point of the duel to get rid of. Anyway, my favorite ritual card is a classic fiend that I just think looks so fucking cool, even though it doesn't do anything, and that's Zera the Mant. It's a normal monster with 2800 attack, and it's just so fiendish, man. Look how beastly he is. This is hype. 2 more types of monsters to go, and the next one in generational order is Pendulum. Pendulum summoning is cool because you'll put 2 pendulum cards down in the pendulum zones, and then from now until forever you can special summon your whole goddamn hand. Plus pendulum monsters that were already destroyed last turn and got placed face up in the extra deck just get to come back for free too for some reason. Each pendulum card has half a scale, 1 card might have a 2, another might have a 7, and if those are the cards in your zones, you can special summon any monsters with levels between those numbers. Get all your level 6s out there for free, all your 5s. I think it's dumb. Pendulum monsters will have different effects depending on if it's summoned as a monster or being used as a pendulum spell card, and on the very rare occasion that I actually use one, it's generally just for the effect it has in the pendulum zone. One example is Performapal Turn Toad, which lets me switch the attack and defense of an opponent's monster once per turn just for being out there, and I'll sometimes put that in a deck by itself with no intention of pendulum summoning anything. Like, that's good in a Ragnazero deck. If I had to pick a favorite pendulum card though, I'll go with Lanceferinkus, a name that I'm sure I just nailed. It's a normal monster on its own with pretty high attack for a 6-star, but in the pendulum zone it makes all normal monsters you control do piercing damage, and piercing damage is awesome. Last, and potentially least, depending on who you ask, it's time for Link monsters, unless Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s introduces a new monster type that I don't know about because I haven't watched it yet. Link monsters are straight up horseshit. They exist to waste both you and your opponent's time. Plenty of them don't care what you use to summon them. Any level, any type, just a certain amount of monsters get linked together, sometimes even just one, to form a Link monster based on its Link rating, and then the little arrows it points to are generally the targeted locations of some of its effects. This makes the positioning of your and your opponent's monsters make a difference, which is at least inherently interesting, but if a monster is Link summoned, it gets the Link rating of the amount of monsters and their Link ratings that Link summoned it, so like if 3 regular dudes make a Link monster, then that Link monster is now equivalent to 3 dudes if it wants to Link summon something else, and it just creates these endless chains of summoning that are so fucking boring, oh my god. I go up against a Marincess deck, and they link summon the same dumbass card 4 times in one turn, just constantly re-adding cards from their graveyard back to their hand and swapping back and forth between link monsters, using one to summon the other or vice versa. It's disgusting. The Salaman Great cards with the field spell can even link summon themselves by using themselves as material. They put Heat Leo on the field, and then send Heat Leo to the graveyard to link summon Heat Leo, just to reactivate its effect. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Link monsters are ridiculous by default, so I don't feel bad about my favorite one being a bullshit ace to a bullshit deck. Fulgo, Justice for Hire. It at least has the decency to only be useful if you're all in on the For Hire archetype, as it requires 3 monsters of different types to link summon, and the majority of its effects only matter if you have a bunch of other For Hire cards in your deck. If it's link summoned, you can special summon 1 monster For Hire with a different type from the ones used for the link summon from your deck in defense position. Also, once per turn, if a card your opponent controls is destroyed by battle or card effect, even their own, you can draw 1 card, and then if you have 3 different monsters For Hire on your side of the field, you can draw 2 more cards. This is huge, not just for the obvious card draw, but to have more For Hire monsters in your hand to discard to activate certain other For Hire effects. I would like to point out that I am not a furry, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary for liking the For Hire deck, but at least I'm not a Dragon Maid guy, am I right? But that's basically gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Watch all my other videos while your opponent takes 15 minutes to set up on you, and I'll see you guys next time.